Hey, this is creepingnet, finally teaching everyone about Bandlab, one of my favorite apps on the cell phone. If everyone's been probably wondering, have you been doing anything musically these years? Well, here we go. We have Bandlab. Bandlab is an application by Cakewalk, same company that makes the DAW for my 486. Right now we're on my brand new phone, Samsung Galaxy A14. As you can see, we have a lot of projects in here that I'm kind of working on. I figure I'd just take people along with and let them see what it's like to work on projects with me in Bandlab. It's a brand new phone, so we shouldn't have any performance problems. You probably see some familiar songs here that I posted. You probably even see other stuff. Anyway, when you first enter Bandlab, it's going to look like any other social media site. You got all these different people in your feed, You got Bone Grinder playing guitar. We got Trevor, Follow. We have all these different folks in here doing stuff. You can listen to their music. We've got like this guy right here. You know, we're just a. It's kind of like a social media app mixed with a digital audio workstation. It allows you to record on your phone. We'll talk a little more about putting guitars on here and stuff later on, since that's really what I'm known for. But right now, I kind of want to show you, you don't even need musical instruments to make music on this app. I mean, and I'm not paid. I'm not, being promoted or anything. I'm doing this completely because this is what I've been doing for the last several years. We're recording this in Linux using screen copy, so if things seem a little weird, well, it's open source. We're trying something new out. Anyway, when you're in here, as you can see, before I start doing that, I'm going to use my arrow pointer to point at it. Down here you have your home page. Over here you can search for artists. You can start new tracks by clicking the plus here, and then you start working with it. These are your notifications. As you can see, I've got people still subbing to me and everything. And then over here, this far right, your folder is your music list. As you can see, I have a whole bunch of new tracks in here. And I was going to kind of talk about how we start out making songs. I usually suggest, if you're not a very experienced musician, start out with one of two things that they currently have. Today we're going to explore the first one that I used. It's called loopers. They have several different ways to kind of start up your own songs. You have drum machine, you have import files, so you can import music. I do that with some of my old tracks sometimes. Sort of a lover boy unfinished business sort of thing. Voice audio, if you're a singer, you can sing into your cell phone and put it in here. It actually sounds pretty decent. Sampler, which is where you can make your own sort of sample board. We'll talk about that elsewhere. You have a looper over here. This is what we're going to talk about today is the looper. Virtual instruments, that's another thing we might cover, and guitar and bass. So people like me who play stringed electric instruments like guitar and bass, we can do so, and record it and have it come in through Bandlab. And if you hear some background noise, I'm recording this in my living room, but anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started here by playing with the looper. So I'll click looper. So in here, as you can see, they've got a lot more loopers than we used to have. You can kind of go through here and sample them. Sometimes they do packs like this over here, where you have like a pack of loopers, intense and heavy. Sometimes they have stuff like this down here, or the most recent ones. Like I just built with the most recent ones, I just built one song per each looper. I like to do that every, so often when Bandlab has new looper packs, I'll usually just build a few new tracks with there. I might just use a few loops on it. I might use the entire looper. It just depends on what's going on. You have a lot of different genres. You have bass, you have FX, you have percussion, synth, beats, drums, keyboards, guitar lead, pad, rock, grunge, all that stuff, genres. You can listen to this pack here, and it'll give you a little bit of a demo of what you're going to hear. Like right now, this is intense sounds. So this is kind of stuff like maybe Nine Inch Nails type stuff or industrial techno stuff. Maybe you want, big room bass. I was just playing with this one not too long ago. We'll just find one. Maybe we can find one that doesn't sound like anything else on here. So let's see. We have like a melodic metal loop there, which I've never actually used that one. Black Cat Hip Hop, that's one of the ones I used way back. Dubstep. So I'll give you an idea. We'll go to one of my tracks though that has like a looper on it already that needs drums. I kind of picked out a track here. Um, this is the editor. We're just going to exit out for right now because I don't need to use anything. Anyway, I was kind of flipping through my tracks and I have a very plain one here, Decaying Reality. So you kind of get to see how I make these tracks. I'll show you how the loopers work in here too, just so you can kind of see how they work. So we go into Studio. When we go into Studio here, as you can see, this is our looper here. When you hit a button, you can hear like there's your beats, which is like your various beats you use. You have some bass lines here. You have keyboard parts. We're going to turn the volume back up here. And that might start with something like this. You know, and then down here we'll hit, just to show you, we'll hit record down here and record that. Now, I've already got something recorded, but that's basically it. A little bit of hint in my methodology, yours might vary. Actually, before we get into my methods here, we're going to talk about how these various looper tracks kind of work together. You have stuff like these, which as you can see are loops split up by how many beats. Like that's like I think like a 16 beat split. That's like a 32 beat split. So you can throw them a little bit off sync with each other and it'll still sound good. It's all quantized. So it's almost impossible to come up with anything that sounds bad using one of these. I mean, you see that right there? And then the way these kind of circle around, that shows you where in a like complete cycle the beats are on this. And then you have stuff down here like FX, you know, which are like your one shots. This was actually kind of a gangster rap looper, so it sort of has some gunshots and stuff in it. Anyway, we're going to kind of check this out here. So this track I did last night, I thought it sounded kind of like a creepy synth wave almost when I just isolated it down to the loopers that we had here. To kind of show you the ones I used. So I used all these synths over here. This one's particularly the centerpiece. Everybody knows how I love Sawtooth 80s style synths. Blame Greg Hawkes and Doug Johnson for that one. Got some voices, but I think I just used mainly the synths and the keyboards. That kind of stuff. So that should give you kind of an idea of what I'm doing with the loops. Now, this is how we get a good chassis for our track here. So, like, I'll sit here and I'll kind of listen to it, sort of like this, and think. What do I want? What do I hear in my brain? What kind of sound do I hear in my head that I'm going to use? You know, like maybe right here I would think maybe I'd use some, you know, bass drums right at the beginning. And then maybe start, you know, maybe with sort of a really slow half-speed drum beat. That's kind of what we're going to get started with here is I'm going to start talking about virtual instruments. Now, I know Bandlab now has a drum track thing going on here. Anyway, cool. So I know Bandlab has like a drum track thing going on here. And anyway, to kind of show you how I do mine, I usually just use the virtual instruments. Now, virtual instruments can be anything. You can use, you know, synthesizers. I might play with that one later. trashy drum kit. Motor City. We have lo-fi mallets. Anyway, so we have all these in here. You know, you got your pianos, dark grand pianos. But right now we're going to focus on drum kits up here. So drum kits are complete drum kits. Now maybe later if I stop playing the drums like a one-legged man trying to run, maybe I'll play some actual drums on here. But right now I don't really feel like embarrassing myself. Anyway, let's go up here. Usually my favorite ones to use are these post-punk drums that I found on here not too long ago, or new wave drums, wherever they were. You know, because you have like trash sounds a little trashy. Thump would be kind of cool if I was doing urban. I like to use Steve Jackson every once in a while. Got Soul Kit, modern day kind of gated rock kit like you hear in a lot of indie rock. Reggae kit. We might have a need for one of those. Raw. Here we go. I like post-punk for the thorough bombast that I use it for. That's actually probably one of my favorite kits. You can also favorite it by tapping the star over there. So we've got that one somewhere. Now we just select it. And now you have different ways of playing the drum kit on here. I mean, you could, and it'll even quantize it for you. Yeah. But I usually just program my drums here using what this is called piano roll notation. So over on it with the drum kit, over here on the side, you have your bass. You can actually tap them on the side. There's your bass. There's your snare. There's your hi hat closed, hi hat open, rim shot, cowbell, a couple other crashes, rides, the floor tom, a few other crash and splash and stuff, and then the other toms. So you have basically a complete drum kit at your tips. Now, usually what I'll come up with is a bass level drum line for the song. So, let's go listen to it a little bit before I add my drums, and let's see what we're going to do here. So right there, I might want to start right at that line. Now, to tell you in the music, this is in regular 4/4. As you can see, each beat is split up into four separate sections, and then they're split up into, quarter notes, eight notes, whole notes, that kind of thing. You can drag and drop, but I'll show you in a minute. But right now, since we're doing the drums, I'm just going to be working with the straight 16th notes here. So when we're here, I'd maybe want this and then that. Maybe you want something a little more dramatic to go with it. Maybe some lighter cymbals. And when we find that's a little too fast, so we'll just split off those two because we kind of want it to go about halftime. We can even go like that. And that's kind of where I get my basic drum lines kind of pre-set up here. Then we're going to take this, and then I just copy and paste my next piece over. And so here we're going to kick that off and show you how those two pieces of the same piece of drum line fit together. We'll get into fills later, but mainly I just start off by doing a basic drum line here. So now in the next part, we're going to go And then usually I like to start it with a nice crash cymbal right over here, usually. So, sort of to make it sound kind of majestic and wide. So there you go. We kind of got our basic drum line right here. So we'll probably want to. And then you maybe want to add some, notes on the root of the beat to give it a little more character. So we're just coming up with a little basic, simple beat here that just is simple and effective. Then you can kind of see how this goes after that. So now, as you can see, and now we're there. Maybe want to go ahead and paste them in. So now we've got the whole workings of a song right here. And I usually work without effects when I first start recording this stuff, and the reason why I work without effects is because it allows me to get the pure sound there and make sure everything's quantized. It's really hard to get everything lined up on the beat just right when you have a reverb or a delay screwing with your ears. So there we are. We've already got a whole first verse done here. So that's kind of how I do this. I start off by, going through and laying down the drum tracks. Now we get into this next part. We need a full-on drum track for that. So let's try and do something a little more interesting here than just the straightforward beats. I tend to try to make my beats a little more Spartan on the verses so that it has a little less impact that when the chorus hits harder. So, because as you can hear, this would be totally effective by itself, but it just wouldn't be there. So what I try to do is and this is something I can't really show you on camera or anywhere really because it's all in my head. But I try to think about what I'm going to do maybe with this instrument next. So it's like I might add an extra little beat right there to make it just a little more. So there you go. Now we have just a little bit of something different here. And then we just fill in this whole section with those. And then, so here we are. We have the end of the verse, and then we get to hear how it transfers over to the chorus section. Yeah. And then we go back here, and then we'll want to look at this. Now, as we remember, I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to use a cell phone and press and hold. So rather than go back and paste each one of these, excuse me, just had dinner. Rather than go back and paste each one of these elements individually, what we're going to do is we're going to copy paste an entire group of them. That way then we have our entire verse done here. And then So we press and hold the screen like that, and then we drag and highlight them. You want to start on a blank spot down here like this, and then press and hold, and then drag across like that. And then this pop-up menu over here, what we're going to do is we're going to click on that double icon there, and that will go ahead and copy that section of MIDI to the clipboard. And then we're going to paste it back down by just tapping on that track and then tapping on the clipboard. And as you can see, there we go. There's our whole second verse already in. A little bit of sound effects. We'll get those balanced with some compression later. Now we're going to take another one of these for a bridge section, and then we're going to try some things here to make the beat more interesting. Maybe we'll get a little experimental. Sometimes I just try tapping random spots. I kind of work like Bob Ross does when he's painting when it comes to making music. I really just sort of follow things. There are no mistakes, just happy accidents, really. Because you never know. Things might come through sounding really, really cool, and you don't expect it. A lot of my Wacky Wednesday stuff comes out that way. So there you go. To show you just a little bit with MIDI, you can actually extend the note duration. It doesn't work with the drums, but works with this. So let's listen to that whole section now with my alterations. And there we have a nice little fill at the end. And we'll alter those fills later. What we're doing right now is we're building the skeleton of the music, the basic rhythm section, everything that kind of glues everything together. And, you know, you might wonder why I'm not using any really fancy beats here. It's because I'm kind of going for a synthwave vibe on this with a standard 4/4, which is what most of my stuff's in because I'm a rock musician by trade, so that's what I do. So we got 4 sections of this whole thing here. Now, I'm totally aware that you can like actually loop all these MIDI tracks. I just prefer not to because I'm used to, as a rock player, having one complete discrete track, and I also like to put a little bit of humanity into the track. Now, I don't take it to the same lengths as a producer, say John Mutt Lang would do, where I'd sit there and scrutinize every note and every beat. You know, I'm not making that kind of money doing this. I'm not making any, actually. But I'm, going to do it in a way where it's going to sound good and organic. And obviously, I'm doing something right because I've got a lot of people following me with my music. So, we're going to kind of play this a little more. So we're going to go back to that section now that has that sound right here, and then we're going to find it. We're going to find the beginning of that section. Now I could make a big track map, but oddly enough, I'm pretty good at doing this by memory. So there we go, and I know it's going to be at least 2 segments. I think 4. I think that should be adequate enough. And you can also kind of tell where you are in the song based on the shapes up here and where, like a more familiar melody line is. I can also tell by looking at the configurations of the dots down here for the drum track. It's something, it's a skill you have to build. It's a skill that you'll build over time doing this. Everybody's got to start somewhere. So as you can see here, now I'm going to talk about how to delete stuff since we're going back into the regular drum tracks. So now we're going to delete those. So how we do that is we go here, and then you tap on the garbage can, and now it's gone. Now I'm going to go back here kind of to my first verse, which is like 4 long. And we're going to just do the same thing again. So this is so much better in the old days when I used to do this in like Kakos Reaper, and I used to have like a laptop at the worst to do this on. Now I can do it all on my cell phone. So yeah, creepingnet actually isn't a Mennonite who uses nothing but old computers. We actually have some modern stuff going on here. And then we're going to go back here and then find this part. So we're going to go back there, and then we're going to start this segment since we can see that there's no fill at the end there. And then we're going to kind of do those 4, copy. And sometimes you get lucky and it actually lands on there. Sometimes I even just leave the wrong drum track on the wrong part deliberately. That way then it kind of changes it up a little. Here we go. There we go, some sound effects. And then we're going to go back here to this. So we're going to copy and, well, actually, before we do that, we listen to it. And then we go back. And then we go back here. And then we go back here. So we're almost getting to the end of the song here with the drum track. And we've done that only in like 28 minutes. I would be doing this a lot faster if I wasn't demonstrating on YouTube, but you know. So let's just take this section right here and let's just do a couple twos of that. That could be a really interesting twist to the drum track. I always like things to sound a little bit different, especially since I tend to write very long pieces of music. Sometimes hitting the 5 or 6 minute mark. So that's what we're going to do here. Now we've had a little bit of a groove to it. And then maybe we'll want to do a whole new drum part right here. So you can see I already have a sound in my head for that section. So here we got a nice slow section, and I'm going to kind of leave some room for the track to breathe because I might want to put a guitar solo here or some kind of synth wash or maybe even, you know, speech or something. Never know till I'm going to go do it. But we need something a little more there than just the dry sound, so I might go with, you know, yeah, you get notifications in the middle of this too. Should probably put it on Do Not Disturb. There we go. Do Not Disturb. So there we go. Yes, here we are. So here we go. We got that, and then I'm going to kind of add one every other beat because we're doing all this with halftime drumming. I just figured this would make a nice, pretty slow piece. I like to write a lot of slow pieces. That's just naturally how it goes. And then we go back to the standard stuff. I know there's a lot of bloops and bleeps. So now we're going to go back here and kind of... We're going to go back to this part. Do another foursome of these. Copy, copy, copy. Here we go. And then we're going to kind of paste these in and go here. Here we are. We're pretty maxed out on the volume here. And then I might go put this here. And we're going to see how long it goes until we get to the end. Oh yeah. So this kind of shows you how I start kind of grooving out towards the end. So I started throwing some of that extra hip-hop drumming in with the extra drums. I like to layer drums on my stuff. This is actually a technique I kind of stole from the Cars, because David Robinson used to actually like layer drum machines over his regular acoustic drum kit and things like that, and that's what gave him a unique sound. So I took that idea and instead decided, let's use hip-hop drums when we do it. So yeah, I'm kind of wearing my influences on my sleeve here. There's just things I like, so that's what I do. And then we might want to just chop that piece off right there and delete it. So we have a nice, oh shoot. You want to make sure that you don't have all these tracks selected at once when you go deleting stuff. And then we do this, and then, you know. Now I remember when I was first running this loop, I kind of wanted to fade it out. Like a lot of 80s songs did at the end. Think like Rumors in the Air by Night Ranger, or a lot of Loverboy songs end on that sus2 chord. That's a big part of it. So as you can see, when we hit the end, it's going to sound kind of abrupt. So instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that little extra bit hanging off there, and we're going to go to there, and then to fade. And then on the fader, you fade the piece in using this. Excuse me. You fade the section in using this line here, which we're going to leave that full. And then we're going to drag that back, and you see how that track, how it's turned dark red up top, and it's kind of diagonal. That's signifying that's going to fade out. So, you know, let's see if that fade's acceptable enough. So we'll play it, and then we'll listen to it. That's pretty cool. As you can see, it's not fading out about as soon as I'd like. Now it's doing it. Because I want it to fade out before it finishes, you know. And there we go. We already have a basis of an entire song here. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about playing these parts here. Another nice thing about loopers is you won't have to use the metronome with them. And here we have the full piece of music. And here we are. So already we have a complete rhythm section on this song. And we haven't even added anything else, and it already sounds almost like a complete piece of music. Now, I'm not going to add fills yet because the other instruments that I add in are going to influence what I want to do with the fills, you know? It's all about feel. That's what I'm trying to do here, and that's what I've worked so hard on Bandlab to achieve over the last several years, is to be able to write like this, but have a feel to it. Now, I don't always go in and add different fills. Sometimes I want another instrument to be a little more focused, but right now we're just focusing on this. And yeah, so that should kind of give you an idea how I compose my drums on this. And we're going to kind of do some more pieces like this in time. Yeah, here we go. So listening to it, I'm pretty pleased with how this is turning out. And then once you're done, it's usually best practice to go up here, up to the corner, and then click on your track and save. And as you can see, we have decaying reality. I might show you the secret of how to do my pictures too, because yeah. So if we go back out, you can't listen to it right away, and here's why. Because it's uploading the track to Bandlab, and then what Bandlab does is it mixes it down for you. Like right now, if I hit that, it's already mixed it down because it's pretty simple. And there you go. And there's just the basic parts of your track. That's how you do drums on drums and loopers on these tracks. So this is creepingnet signing out, and I will see you in the next video.